In this video, we're going to run through some of the common lab equipment and some uses that you might see for them. So first up, you have your safety goggles. So you also have more safety equipment than that, but your safety goggles, pretty standard. They just cover your eyes, and then they have an elastic band that goes around the back of your head. They are there to protect your eyes from any chemical splashing. Okay, so they are very important and help keep you from going blind. You also have your lab aprons, which help protect your clothing from any kind of chemical spills or splashes, and you have your gloves, which protect you from chemicals that you're handling. Beakers. So, the joke here is that this Muppet, his name is Beaker because he's a scientist. Me, 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 me. Anyway, so beakers are kind of the standard, basically the standard cup in chem labs or any kind of labs. So these, they generally come in 50 milliliters, 100 milliliters, 250, 400, 500, and so on sizes. So these are also designed to be heated if necessary. So if you are heating a liquid, you will generally do it in a beaker. If you're mixing two solutions, generally that happens in a beaker as well. These are not for measuring. Okay, the constant heating and cooling actually distorts the measurement markings on beakers. So they're there as kind of just a guide more than anything else. Erlenmeyer flask. These are similar to beakers, they just have a smaller top end to them. Okay, so they are more triangularly shaped than rectangularly. And they are also used for different kinds of reactions, often ones that you're kind of more cautious about boiling over or splashing out. You have test tubes. Okay, so I'm sure you've all seen test tubes. They're just basically a tube of plastic or glass that's closed off at one end. You also have your test tube tongs, which you actually squeeze them and it creates a little opening at this end here that then fits right around the test tubes pretty nicely. And you have your test tube racks, because as you might imagine, test tubes don't stand up very well or at all. So you need something to help them stand. You have your watch glasses. I have no idea how these got named, but watch glasses are useful for drying things. So if you have a solid that you have filtered out of a liquid and you need to dry the solid, then generally you will leave it on a watch glass overnight or over a couple days or something. You have a crucible. These are made out of ceramic. This also has its lid on here. These are used for heating different materials, small amounts of different materials, because they can be heated to very high temperatures. They also break really easily, so they're fun. You have your tongs. So these tongs are kind of general use tongs, so they have your kind of end here that's really good for grabbing. And then the curved portion here is good for grabbing onto a crucible, actually. And you have your funnels. Okay, so this is pretty standard. You've got the smaller end at one end and the larger at the other. Helps you pour things into a small opening. Also can be used during filtrations. You have your graduated cylinders. So graduated refers to the markings on the glass of the graduated cylinder. These are not designed to be heated, so these measurements stay constant over time. So these are great for measuring liquids. Okay, this is actually the only way you want to measure liquids. And you can actually, there is quite a wide variety of sizes for these as well. Anywhere from about 5 to like 200 and up milliliters. Droppers, these are obviously great for moving small amounts of liquid, especially if you need just a couple drops of something. Pipettes, so type of pipettes that we would see in this class are generally more like this, okay, or they look something like a dropper. Okay, and again, this would have to have a pipette bulb on the end. If you've watched the lab safety video already, you know why I say that. This is a different type of pipetter. This is called a micro pipetter. These generally run anywhere from $500 to $1,000 each, and they do have to be calibrated, which is another huge expense, which is why we don't have any. You also have to have a little tip on the end, and they are for very specific volumes of liquid. So you generally see these in biochem labs and upper level, like college level laboratories. They are a lot more precise than your regular pipettes over here, and generally a lot more useful than these, as you can get like incredibly precise with them. You have a burette. So a burette is kind of like a graduated cylinder with a little dropper on an end and then a valve that you can close. Okay, so you can control the flow rate out of a burette. Okay, this used for titrations, and generally I don't use burettes because I hate titrations with a passion. If you would like to know more information about that, you can always ask why I hate titrations so much. But this is a burette. You also have ring stands and clamps. So the ring stand is basically you have a flat portion at the bottom and then just kind of a pole sticking up out of it. And that you can attach clamps like this one onto. You can also attach rings to, like these. And then you can put stuff on top of the rings. So that's why it's called a ring stand. You have forceps, also known as tweezers. Yeah, I don't actually care which you refer to them as, but just so you know, that's what I mean when I say forceps. You have a spatula. So this spatula has a little scoopy end on this end here and then a flatter end here. This is for kind of weighing out chemicals. So you scoop the chemical out of the little bottle with the scoopy end and then actually can weigh it. So it's nice for using or for transporting around small amounts of powder. You have a glass stirring rod. The name kind of tells you what those are for. They are glass, so they are breakable. Okay, and there's actually a lab safety video that was made in like the 70s or something where somebody breaks one and then immediately stabs himself in the hand with it, and there's a lot of fake blood that goes everywhere. And I always thought that was kind of a ridiculous part of the video until my first year teaching at OU. And on the first day, one of my friends had a student who was trying to clean out the bottom of his test tube. And so he had a paper towel shoved into the bottom of the test tube and was trying to move it around with the glass stir rod. And he ended up snapping the glass stir rod in half and then stabbed himself right in the hand with it. So, all in all, that was a great first day for my friend and for him. You also have your Bunsen burners. So Bunsen burners use natural gas and a spark, which you use a lighter, or not a lighter, a striker for to create the little spark. And then you can create basically a small flame. Okay, and it's a very steady flame, and it's used obviously for heating different things. Balances, so these are your scales. If you are measuring out, say 5 grams of a solid, you will use a balance to measure that 5 grams. You have a hot plate, so they do look relatively similar, but you'll notice that the hot plate has heat and stir on it, and there's knobs so you can change them. Well, the balance just has different buttons on it to kind of help you measure out your substances. Okay. Nice thing about hot plates is the newer ones actually have a stir function to them. So what happens is there's a little magnet that's inside the hot plate here that when you turn the stir on, that magnet starts to spin. And then if you see this little pill looking thing on top of it, that's actually called a stir bar. And you would drop that into your beaker with liquid in it, and it's got a magnet in it, so it starts spinning along with the magnet inside the hot plate. And that will actually stir your solution for you. They are genius little inventions. And that is all.